Senior national correspondent Terry Moran in Ukraine. So, Terry, what stood out for you after listening to the president and also the Secretary of State today?
This is the last-ditch effort, it feels like here. This is the plea to meet at the bargaining table rather than go forward with what the U.S. government, the UK government, the Ukrainian government, many other governments and open source analysts agree is a massive army poised to blitzkrieg into this country if Vladimir Putin gives the word. And this sounded to me like the 11th hour. It's arrived. And the United States saying, we can talk about the Minsk agreements, those agreements to settle that long simmering conflict here between the Ukrainian government and Russian-backed, Russian-armed separatists, that we can do that. But the response right now on the ground is there is no signs of any withdrawal. They're shuffling some troops around. In fact, the United States says they continue to see forward movement into what they say are firing positions. And the word out of the Kremlin is really defiant, saying that the bottom line demand remains a promise, a pledge, a guarantee that this sovereign nation and its free people will never be allowed to choose to join NATO, and that will always be a non-starter.
So we know the president says he thinks the invasion will happen soon. But what about the Ukrainians? You have spent so many weeks with them.
You know, there's been a shift, I believe. When I got here, it seemed that there was skepticism, in fact, almost nonchalance that anything could happen in regards to a massive war. They thought Putin was staking out a bargaining position. That turned then, after the American government and then President Biden stepped forward in very plain and stark terms, said, this is what we see, this is what we believe is happening. It was kind of disbelief. They have to be wrong. They were wrong about Iraq. You know, somebody said to me at one point, you guys are wrong again. And now you get the sense that there is some fear. You know, we talked to a woman today who manages buildings for the city. Many of those buildings, hundreds of them, have shelters. They were built in the Soviet era. They have bomb shelters. It's her job to keep them up. We toured one. And at the end, I said, could you ever imagine that this shelter would be used in time of war? And she dissolved into tears. She's a mother of two. And she, I think, with a lot of people in this country now gets the sense deep in their gut that this could really be coming.
And also, too, Terry, it can't be easy for Ukrainians to listen to the Russians, accuse Ukrainians of atrocities. I mean, it happened right there in that speech before the Secretary of State at the UN Security Council, these false flag narratives that officials have been warning about.
That's right. So the United States government believes that Vladimir Putin is trying to create some kind of pretext, a justification to invade. And that long simmering conflict out in the eastern part of this country is now heating up. And the Russian-backed separatists there did make claims that there'd been a massive amount of shelling from the Ukrainian side, killing all kinds of civilians, and that they discovered mass graves of almost 300 people. The problem is that there are independent monitors on the ground per those agreements from 8 years ago. They usually send a reporter right to the scene of a large shelling. There is firing across that line pretty constantly. No such movement has been made, none requested. This looks like it's all for show right now. And it is very worrying to people here and to the United States, because if it is for show, what is it doing? In order to do what? And it does feel like Putin is looking to try to stir the pot, looking for a justification to attack.
Meanwhile, Russia has now formally responded to that U.S. written response to Russia's demands. We have a part of it here, which says in part, in the absence of the American side's willingness to negotiate firm and legally binding guarantees of our security by the U.S. and its allies, Russia will have to respond, including through implementing military technical measures. What do they mean exactly? Why didn't they just say all-out war, all-out invasion?
You know, Vladimir Putin's a lawyer, likes to think of himself as a lawyer. He's trained as a lawyer in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg. I think he likes to find the crevices and creases in international law and fit his raw power demands into them so that he sounds fancier than a fist coming at Ukraine. That's my read. You know, I'm sure there are others who have a better idea. They are trying to fit what they want to do into at least the superficial structure of international law. That's what lines like that are all about. But those demands for Russia's security not only include that the free people of sovereign Ukraine give up their freedom of choice when it comes to whether or not they want to join an alliance, but also things like the United States must remove all nuclear weapons from all parts of the world, which I assume would include submarines, not in their territory, and that NATO must roll back its own infrastructure, its military emplacements, all the way back a quarter century, 25 years ago, to what it was back in 1997. He wants to bring not necessarily an iron curtain down again, but an iron shadow across what Russia has believed in the past and what he clearly believes, he's stated this, is Russia's sphere of influence, its rightful place around power around its borders. Kira?
Our Terry Moran, Vladimir Putin, fancier than a fist. I'm always pulled in by the eloquent language that you use and describe situations across this country, and amazing work there in Ukraine. Terry, appreciate you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.